Thank you, Brandon. So as mentioned, I have a master's degree in math, and so there's this. Before I go into a rant on popular misconceptions about math, which I could do for a while, I'm gonna spare you that. Um, but I think I have heard it said that chess helps you in academics. And this is one kind of situation where I believe the reverse is true. Math, I believe, can help your chess. And the core idea is that, in my mind, is that math is all about, as mathematicians do it, which distinct from arithmetic, is about formalizing your ideas logically so that you can apply the rules of logic to them. This can come in handy a lot in chess, which maybe we can talk about later. Anyway, as some of you may be able to guess, the title of I'm going to have some references in this lecture. If you don't get them, that's okay. You probably haven't seen The Princess Bride, and that's okay. Anyway, so let's get into the question at hand. As I said, math is all about formalizing your ideas. So let's formalize what exactly we're trying to do. We wish to construct a chess game, with the greatest possible number of moves played, under the current standard rules of tournament chess, FIDE rules. Specifically, the theoretical players are not trying to win. Rather, they're conspiring to create a game that just takes as long as possible. You might even say it will lives away. And this is, admittedly, the game itself is not very useful unless you are paired with a friend in a tournament and really don't like the TD. So, anyway. The only exception to the conspiracy rule, the rule governing the player's play, is that if the game could legally end in a draw claim by either threefold repetition or move rule, it does. So in normal tournaments, I believe technically usually a player has to claim a draw after 50 moves or due to threefold repetition. If neither player does, that could get weird. So we're just going to pretend that can't happen, or enforce that cannot happen. Okay? So a little bit of background about the historical facts. The longest tournament game, is that legible? Yeah, I think so. The longest tournament game on record was Nikolic Arcevic. I apologize if my pronunciation was wrong. Played in Belgrade in 1989, which took 269 moves to reach a draw. However, that was prior to a tournament rules change by FIDE in 1992. That game shorter. Actually, it was a temporary rules change that FIDE made where a specific end game did not require the 50-move rule. Instead, they had a 100-move rule. Anyway. Longest recorded game played with current rules appears to have been Dani Nazarov, Turnov 2016, which resulted in a win for white by resignation after 238.5 moves. So on white's, this is the final position after white's 39th move. Black resigned, which, if white finished accurately and black did not resign, this game could have gone 242 moves, which just seems like a terrible missed opportunity to me. Like, they could have gone a little further and gotten a better record. Anyway, in this position, let me throw it to you guys. Anyone, what's black's best position? There are actually two of them. Best defensive resource. Rook E7.
Rook A7?
Oh, sorry? Yeah, so that's a very interesting answer. I thought too, actually, with rook b7, I couldn't find the mate. But it's actually, technically the mate is actually faster that way, because white's move can be bishop c7, and black has no good moves. That's actually mate in 3. Yeah. So that allows rook a1 mate on the next move, I believe. That allows rook e8 mate on the next move. So this, sorry, it was a little bit of a trick question, and I apologize for that. Actually, there are 2 best moves, and they are rook f7 and rook g7. Black, there's absolutely nothing black can do, but just waste a move of the rook. So sorry for the trick question. Anyway, back to the original question at hand. Let's talk about a general method for finding our answer. The longest possible chess game. For our purposes, by far the greatest restriction is the 50 move rule, which in case for newer players who may be in the room or watching, the 50 move rule states that the game ends in a draw if the players make 100 consecutive half moves, so 50 moves each, none of the pawn move or a capture. It does, however, make the 50 move rule does, however, make the arithmetic for this problem much easier than it didn't exist. Threefold repetition takes a while. Our general strategy, therefore, will be to waste 100 half moves in between each reset of the rule, where a reset is a pawn move or a capture. As a side note, it's not totally trivial to see, but we really don't have to worry about threefold repetition. And this, I just did a little computation here that I'm not going to go into the full details of, but threefold repetition, you can get to 256 moves just circling the knights before you've moved anything else. And if you allow more degrees of freedom, which you can in the starting position before you move a pawn, you get easily thousands of moves you can get to if you ignore the 50 move rule. Okay? Oh, I should check. Are there any questions so far? Don't want to go too fast. Okay? So let's get into the harder parts. Let's count resets. So the basic idea is going to be you can reset the 50 move rule and multiply by 50. It's the core of the idea. So let's start with the first type of reset, a pawn move. Next question is simple. How many times can we reset? No, one type of reset is pawn moves. How many pawn moves can occur in one game? To answer this, we notice each pawn can move at most 6, because on its 6th move, it promotes and is no longer a pawn. This is true, note, whether or not the pawn captures anything, because a pawn move always advances the pawn to the next rank. Okay? Furthermore, there are only 16 pawns on the board at the start of the game. If every single one promotes, which we're going to need to reach the number we want, that gives us 6 times 16, or 96 pawn moves. Okay? Let's count captures now. This is even easier. We can only have 30 total captures. There are 32 chessmen in the starting position, and it is not legal to capture the kings, in case you didn't know that.
Do you not draw by insufficient material for that?
So that's a good question. So it does not, but until the last capture, there's no draw by insufficient material because you can leave the last piece a rook. So And what I think you might be getting at is,
So the 30th capture ends the game.
yes. But we can do that after all the pawn moves, right? We leave till the end can be a promoted pawn, right? And also note that just multiplying by 50 works because the first 50 moves were before the first reset. And the last reset will be, and we won't get 50 moves after the last reset. So we don't have to, like, if any of you know computer science, we won't have a fence post error because of that. Which, for those who don't know computers, literally all that is just off by one error for counting in between things. Anyway, note, and this is just a note, that we should not, none of our captures should be of pawns until after they promote, because that wastes resets. This means that we can reset the 50 move rule 96 plus 30, or 126 times. This game can go 126 times 50, or 6,300 moves. Can't help feeling like I forgot something, though. Anyone have any ideas? Yeah?
You can't promote like all 16 pawns, right? Because to get to the other side, it gets to go through a pawn.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
You have to capture a pawn eventually.
Well, okay, you're very much on the right track. So, what's this?
So some pawn moves have to be captured.
Yes. What's this? A mistake of unusual magnitude? I don't think they exist. Yes, this is the problem. Again, Princess Bride. Okay, as you may have realized, as you did realize, we can't promote all of our pawns if none of them ever capture anything. And it's important to note the pawns don't have to capture other pawns, but we need the pawns to capture something. This means we've made a double counting mistake because each move that's both a pawn move and a capture has been counted twice, even though it only gave us one reset, right? To rectify this, let's try to prove pawns with as few pawn captures as possible. So let's talk about efficiently passing our pawns, which is, so at a basic level, each pawn capture can clear the way for two pawns to promote, the one that captured and the one opposing it, right? So you can capture with the pawn to get past its opposer, and then the other one. Therefore, we need at least 8. There are a few ways to achieve this, but my preference is for the pattern shown. Pawns are not left-handed. They're all capturing to the right. So, anyway. Again, there are other ways to do this. This is just the one I thought of first. So, anyway. Note that also, just a little note, with 4 captures on each side, we also don't have to worry about running out of other pieces for the pawns to capture. Okay? Almost there. Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, back here.
No, like this one.
This one. Yes.
You just do on the side, right? Because technically, if both of the pieces are in the middle,
So
technically just do on the side there, right?
this is so. There are a few reasons. Thank you for the question. There are a few reasons we don't want to or need to en passant. So what I'm illustrating here is not en passant. It's so each pawn will just capture a piece. So like this white pawn on e4 will capture a piece that black just chooses to put on b5 for the purposes of passing those pawns. And
but we also want to double move the pawn.
Exactly.
Losing moves.
yes.
So if we double move to en passant, we wasted a pawn move.
Yeah, not only does that have us capturing a pawn, which loses a whole bunch of pawn moves, resets, we don't want to make a two square move with a pawn in the first place, because that from the get-go would only give that pawn 5 resets instead of 6. Does that make sense? Specifically, the one you that asked the question, does that make sense? Cool. Okay, thank you for the question, by the way. Okay, we're almost there. Are there, let's see, are there any other questions before we continue? Okay, so let's see. Well, we originally decided we could get 126 resets, but we double counted 8 of them. Therefore, the most we can get is 126 minus 8, or 118 resets. Since every 50th move must be a reset, the maximum is 118 times 50, or 5,900 moves. If it is otherwise when we're done, I shall be very put out. Can anyone tell that I'm about to be very put out? Any ideas on what I might have missed this time? This one's a little bit harder. So, if there are no, yeah, you got an attempt?
So I'm just thinking about the number of captures we need to do at each stage of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible that we still need to capture something early that like stops?
So
You can't put the king in checkmate if you keep promoting pawns, right?
correct, but you don't have to promote queen either. You can do a whole bunch of knight promotions, though probably bishops would generally be better, and you can, well, yeah, it can be done, and I would be much less confident, but someone on YouTube has done it. Actually constructed the game that does all this. Anyway, so there's one key detail that you have to think about to see this, and it has less to do, unlike the previous correction, it has less to do with space on the chessboard and more to do with time, particularly the tempi of the resets. So I'll go ahead and spoil it. There's one more detail to consider. Remember when I said the 50 move rule specifically counts to 100 half moves? Who makes the 100th half move? Who makes the 200th half move? Who makes the 300th half move?
The original one, but does it change? Would the pattern change?
No, because black makes every nth half move, right? So you have to change, and that's the idea here, is if you stick to exactly 50 moves, or 100 half moves, before you reset, black is the only one that gets to reset. So, finishing touches. In order to approach our 5,900 move estimate, we must occasionally make only 99 half moves between resets, so that both players get a chance to do things. Otherwise, white will never get to move a pawn or capture anything. They'll just be shuffling his knights and maybe his rooks all game. Okay? Yeah. Specifically, we use as many resets with black as feasible at the start of the game. Then let white use some. Every time we switch which player is resetting the timer, we lose half a move. And that's it. So we try to do that as few times as possible. And let's see. The logistics are a little involved, and probably not worth going through the whole thing. But it turns out we can maximize our resets while only switching 4 times. So this means we end up losing 2 full moves. So our final answer is 5,900 minus 2, or 5,800 98 full moves in the longest chess game that is legally possible. Any questions? Yes.
How long would that take to do in a classical game?
In a classical, it's on the time control, right? So let's see. I actually haven't figured that out, but let's say in the time control we use.
We do it tonight.
Yeah,
Can we go
So-
back one slide, please?
So if it's a 2-hour game with 30-second increments, you run through the entire 2 hours, and then each move is, you spend the
Okay,
entire
30
seconds?
30-second increment, we give it, let's see, 30-second increment, we give it, what, 2,000.
16,000 seconds.
Are we allowing majority or bad?
Yeah, so let's see, it would be, give me a second, 99, no, 49, it would be 2,949 minutes. So that's close to 40 hours, over 40 hours. 40 hours and like 49, 2 hours with the original, or 44 with the 2-hour time control at the beginning.
These are full moves, right? So it's 30 seconds.
Oh, yeah, you're right. So it's just, yeah, you're right, sorry. Thank you. It's just this number of minutes plus the 2 hours you started with. Thank you, Brandon. Yeah, it's full moves. So each half move gives 30 seconds, so each full move gets a minute in that context. Anyway, any other questions? Oops, sorry.
1 hour. I don't know.
Hmm?
That's a little more difficult.
Yeah. What's up?
If you play for non-stop for 4 days,
That would be
Very difficult.
hazardous to your health, yes.
You got to use that hours for bathroom breaks, quick rest, and do something.
Yeah,
Play on me.
yeah, Michael.
What?
No, I was thinking, that's presumed that, I was saying would time actually matter because you're saying the max, I'm talking about as far as the, no, I mean, you're talking about classical format 30 seconds, but it's
Yes.
presumed that we both, as black and white, both optimize our moves max, so we would already be predetermined on exactly how we would play the game.
Yes, you
So
could just write out the
we
score
can be
sheet
as
ahead of
fast-
time.
We can
Yeah.
be as fast as we want to be.
Yes.
So that's why I
In
was like,
the-
how much?
Yeah, that's how long, yeah, I agree. That's how long the game,
Time and the longest amount of time for 2 different questions.
yeah, the longest amount of time it could take is what we were computing. The shortest amount of time it could take would be dependent on the player's dexterity.
I mean, you could immediately, the computer would do it like that. But
Yeah, it can just,
you can physically move.
a computer could pre-move the whole sequence if you just give it the moves, like, writ-
How do I know that 17,000 quid if you don't go top
So 2.5 days in, he sneaks in a check.
There's a reason I said players in air quotes, yes.
Has anybody ever done it before?
So I found a YouTube video where someone put together a game. I'm pretty sure with computer assistants. To the best of my knowledge, no one's ever done this.
Great Guinness Book of World Records, wouldn't it?
I'm pretty sure no one's ever done this in a tournament.
You can only break out once, so once you break it, you're forever in the Guinness Book.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
Hey, let's
Bro, I'll set up for under 1 hour.
do it, bro. Let's do it.
Easy.
One caveat, if you prearrange your game, that's illegal.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah, never mind. My brain,
So-
my brain
That's
was
kind of
slow.
spontaneously happen.
I was 48 into my brain. Watch it.
It's the Konrad opening of the save variation.
Oh, no.
Just because we found an opening that lasts 101 hours doesn't mean illegal. We just
So-
found an opening.
My fault, I'm way more booked out.
We're both 6,000 moves
So-
book opening, yeah.
So, just as a side note, I have some one slide with a couple of diagrams for discussion for anyone who wants to talk about the math behind the ignoring threefold repetition. But the one on the left here is what I imagine you would do before the first reset, because you can only move the knights and the rooks a little bit. So, yeah, this diagram on the left is, so the color coding is just, I think it's called a great circle or something. That's the airplane thing. Anyway, that pattern that knights can move in where they just cycle around.
The knight board?
Yeah, not of the whole board though, just those 4 squares. So there's a pattern that knights can move in where they cycle around 4 squares. Yeah, I don't know, but this is the arrangement I used when I figured out that you can do this for 256 moves. The 50 move rule, yeah. That's, again, without even shuffling the rooks, without going to any other squares, just these 4 knights going through these, 16 squares. Each one sticking to the right 4. Anyway. That's about all I have. Thank you very much, everybody.